might need organization, all of them need to be involved in the process too. So I'm thinking about it.
Yes.
It is? Yeah. Who is that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing. Carl. Okay.
I just want to come by.
All right, today, All Things Harlem, we'll be interviewing Cyrus Vance, one of 3 candidates for the office of District Attorney, Manhattan. We want to talk about your candidacy, and we also want to talk about the need for reform in the criminal justice system. Right? So, to begin with, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
My name is Cy Vance. I am a candidate for Manhattan District Attorney. The primary election is this September 15th. And our current DA, Bob Morgenthau, is retiring after 35 years. So it's a big moment in law enforcement. It's a big moment in change in one of the city's most important institutions, because the prosecutor's office obviously has huge impact on the justice system and making sure that we keep people not only safe, but we administer justice fairly. My background is that I've been a prosecutor in that office in the 1980s. I worked there between 1982 and 1988 and handled every imaginable case, from pickpocketing to homicide to white-collar crime and fraud cases. Since I left the DA's office, I've been a trial attorney, but principally I've been a defense lawyer, and I've handled serious investigations and trials on the defense all around the country, from Seattle, Washington to New York City and states in between. And I've also served on several sentencing commissions appointed by the governors, both on the West Coast and the East Coast, including Governor Patterson here in New York State, to help the legislature and the governor and to make recommendations about how to make our sentencing laws and our criminal justice system more fair and effective. So what I believe I bring to this race is, if you think, as I do, that the goals of a district attorney's office are to do 2 things: to make sure that we have safety in our streets, in our homes, in our businesses, and fairness in our courtrooms, I believe that I bring a broad perspective as a prosecutor, as a defense lawyer who understands both sides of the criminal justice system, can bring that fair perspective and balanced perspective to a major law enforcement job at an important change point in the office. This DA's office, like every major institution in the country, the country's gone through enormous change this last 24 months. Institutions, whether they're banks, schools, law firms, or newspapers, have to remake themselves to make themselves more relevant, not only to face the challenges we have today, but what's going to be coming tomorrow. And what I want to do is to make sure that this DA's office, going forward, continues the work I think it does well in keeping violent crime low, but equally important is that we have a much more aggressive agenda in terms of crime prevention as part of the mission of the DA's office, because a crime prevented, I think, is far more powerful than a crime prosecuted. And when I'm talking about crime prevention, I'm talking about making sure that we don't send nonviolent offenders to jail when treatment would be a better remedy to influence them not to repeat the offense. And I'm talking about helping ex-offenders who are coming back from state prison re-enter society by providing them, as the Doe Fund and and the Fortune Society do, helping them with housing, a job, mental health treatment. We've got to make sure that we are, as a prosecutor's office, helping to drive crime down, and that now we're not measuring our success just by how many convictions we get, but by our office's ability to affect long-term crime reduction. So that's what my campaign's about. I'm a white lawyer. Now, I've handled cases for people of color all over the country, and I do a lot of work at the request of the court for people who can't afford lawyers, and many of those are people of color. And I'm particularly sensitive to, as a lawyer who does defense work in drug cases and all kinds of cases, to the issue you're talking about. A overwhelmingly large percentage of the people charged are people of color, African American and Latino. I'd like to make sure as a DA's office that I can say, we can't tell the police who to arrest and not to arrest, but that when it comes to us, we are not making charging decisions that are biased in any way. The good news is, as you noted, that the number of prisoners in state prison has actually gone down from 70,000 to 60,000. Now that's a lot of people, but the trend has gone down. Here's what I'm going to talk about: three things that I'm going to do. The first thing is I'm going to make sure that we don't send people to prison until it's a last resort. And when I started talking about the importance of crime prevention, we start by having the DA be a full player. I mean a full player in the community. Now you stop me if this answer gets too long, all right?
You're good.
I want to change the way the DA handles cases in the office in several ways. First, I want to establish something called community-based justice as a model for the DA's office. And what that means is I want teams of DAs to be assigned to groupings of precincts and communities in Manhattan, as opposed to the way it's done now, where a district attorney, when the police come down with a case, a district attorney, a young DA, could write the case up, whether it's from Harlem or from Chelsea, and have no idea about the background or context in which the offense occurred. I want the DAs to know a smaller area of Manhattan that they're responsible for, and that they be as proud of reducing crime and working with the community to reduce crime and understanding the community crime issues and concerns as they are about the cases they try down in the courthouse. So I want to change the model by way we assign DAs to handle cases, so that you'll know who the team leader is for the group of DAs that works in the zone that might comprise, West and East Harlem and Central Harlem. And that team will be working with community leaders, police, probation, parole, to establish a crime prevention program for the community, and work with you to make sure that we not only keep the community safer by arresting people who are committing serious crimes, but diverting people from being arrested, youth particularly, if we have alternative diversion programs that we can use for them in lieu of arrest. Someone's charged with commits a minor offense. I think we ought to look at not sending them downtown for riding a bike on the street, on a sidewalk, but find some other way of having them be an intern for you for 2 weeks. And have them learn a lesson for committing perhaps a low-level offense, but rather than being arrested, provide some community sanction or community involvement in lieu of an arrest. So I want to change the way we handle cases under a community-based model system. Secondly, I want to make sure that we are aggressively using these alternatives to incarceration in nonviolent cases. We talked about that.
All right, let me ask you one question before you go further. You're talking about community-based
a justice model.
Yeah, model. What do you have to do to put this into effect? I mean, do you have the power?
Absolutely, absolutely.
You can structure your office.
Absolutely. The DA's office can be structured the way the DA sees fit. Now, it has to work. It has to integrate with the courts where the cases end up going. You have to have an effective way of integrating with the police where the cases come from. But this is not the only, what I'm talking about has been done successfully in communities all over the country. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Washington, D.C. Eric Holder, the current Attorney General, did this in D.C. in the 1980s. Boston, Seattle, Washington, where I practiced. It's simply it's a common sense approach to law enforcement. You want the DAs to be your neighbors. You want them to know what your community is and where the issues are, block by block, building by building, just like the police do. They'll make better judgment calls on who to prosecute and who not to prosecute. They'll make better judgment calls on who should be incarcerated and who shouldn't be incarcerated. And they'll do a better job on the back end supporting ex-offenders coming out of jail.